Hi, this is meteorologist Tim Vasquez with an update on Hurricane Matthew. As of Thursday evening, Hurricane Matthew is just off the coast of around Vero Beach, showing Category 4 with 115 knots sustained winds and pressure of 939, so that's pretty well on the low side. Right now on the radar, what we're seeing is kind of a double eye wall structure. Here we've got the outer eye wall, and then we've got this inner eye wall that's been in place for several hours. In between, we've got what we call a moat. Now, when this moat is dry and is wrapped almost completely around the inner eye wall, that's when we start looking for dissipation of the inner eye wall. So we're going to probably see that over the next several hours. That inner eye wall has actually tracked directly over the Freeport area. You see it right there. And the winds in that inner eye wall have the bulk of the wind strength right now. I'll show you the velocity from the Miami radar. And we have to keep in mind that the radar is down in this area here. It's to the southwest, and it's shooting the radar beam to the northeast. And it's also important to remember that we're not observing winds perpendicular to the radar, only outwards and inwards. So what we're seeing here is a very strong inbound wind region and a very strong outbound right there. So this area right here, these winds are going to be about, 87 knots inbound. And then here we have 91 outbound. So still pretty fierce winds in there. And that's outlining a circulation that looks kind of like this. And that's about maybe 15 miles from the center of the storm. And just to refer back to the radar, that's it right there. So strongest winds, pretty well wrapped around like this. Now what's the motion on the storm? If we run a track of this, we find that it's about 340 relative to true north, 340 degrees. That would be north-northwest, moving about 10 knots or about 12 miles an hour. So that's taking it pretty well parallel to the coast. We're not really looking for this storm to move inland. I did get the early models. The models are the key times for that. They run those at, those are going to be 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. every day. And they do take a couple of hours to run, but I just got the most recent ones in, and they're bringing the track of that a little further away from the coast. So the actual official NHC forecast made by human forecasters is this line right here. So you see that back there. And you can see they tend to be conservative, but the models are already starting to veer to the right of that out in this area. So that looks to be the trend right now. It looks like we're going to see them track like this, but they don't have the degree of recurvature that the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. Now the recurvature is going to be in response to that storm that's further out to the east, Nicole. There's interaction between those two storms. Matthew gets drawn into a circulation with that, and Nicole also gets drawn in. So there's a little bit of interaction there. And so the net effect is that the hurricane recurves back to the Bahamas, but as it does so, the sea surface temperatures out in that area, through this region right here, they've been cooled off dramatically by all the rain and overturning of the sea. So that's going to be kind of detrimental to Matthew, posing any risk to Miami. Now, they still may get some tropical storm force winds, but the official forecast from NHC on this, let's see, on this last pixel, they've got 37 knots sustained there, which is about 42 miles an hour, so that's not too bad. Although that's not good news for Bermuda, which is still, it's probably trying to pick up a little bit from that system that went over them, from those high winds that went over there today. So hopefully things are not too bad there. So what are we looking at for a forecast? Here's the intensity forecast from all the different models. Now, the Canadian and the UK models, they're running those pretty high up to Category 3, Category 2 to 3, but the official NHC forecast runs like this. So that takes it down into the tropical storm levels around day 2. That's going to be by Saturday morning to Saturday afternoon. So it's going to be kind of a gradual drop-off. And some of the other dynamical models are forecasting the same thing. That would be the official WRF model, HWRF, COAMPS, GFDL, and the other thing that I threw on here is the GFS, which has been very, very accurate. Now they don't have a good representation of the vortex in that model, so it shows some very weird wind speeds. But the overall trend is important, and it's showing just kind of a gradual fall off, maybe a little bit of a ramp up there on Saturday or Sunday as it gets out into the deeper waters out in this region. But then as it moves back towards Bermuda, that should take the intensities back down quite a bit. So I'm not going to say that Miami is totally out of the woods yet. There's an outside risk of maybe a Cat 1 storm coming on shore, but for the most part we're looking at the intensities to be lower, and you see there's so much spread and so much uncertainty in the models that we could see the storm end up anywhere out in this area, or out in that area, or this area. Now if it does stay out to the east, that's going to run a risk of intensification, but that is a long ways off. A lot can happen between now and then. And let's see, that's about all I got for you. I'll just show you very quickly what the forecast is over the weekend. There's Matthew off the Carolina coast. Looks like a lot of high pressure across the eastern U.S., and that'll push a lot of cool, dry air southward, all the way into Florida, actually. And that's not good for the storm, as it entrains some of that drier, cooler air that will tend to degrade it. Anyway, this has been a special presentation for Hurricane Matthew. Hope you can join us on the regular webcast at youtube.com/TimWXX, and that's Meteorology Lab. We do a broadcast every night at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, covering weather around the U.S. And you can also post any questions you have on there, and I'll try to get to those. Anyway, hope to see you there. Have a good evening.